just start reacting to the other team. But they find a couple opportunities to put GCU in uncomfortable positions. They sneak away an inhibitor, they sneak away a bear, and then next thing you know, they sneak away the game.
Well, that's what we mentioned before. Gold United were able to pull themselves back into that game and regain control, but as soon as they lost control of one little teeny tiny area, P1 were able to brute force themselves in there, whether it be the first Elder Dragon that went in their way, or the Baron that they took off the back of, you know, the inhibitor that they forced down, or Ryu ending the game on Corki. P1 very scrappily found a way, and Gold United were thrown a little bit off kilter. So we'll see what changes up now that Gold United are on the blue side of this game.
This is the best thing about best of fives, Tom, is exactly what adaptations come in out of both coaches. So GCU already not nearly as many AD carry bans here on blue side. They take away LeBlanc and Thresh. Phoenix1 continuing that kind of tank-focused bans that they had on blue side. The Sejuani Maokai repeated already. So it looks like Phoenix1 might be saying, all right, we'll keep the tanks relatively off the table. We'll continue with our scrappy style. GCU, after seeing how big of an advantage Arrow was able to build for himself, might realize that the AD carry bans aren't working out. They're going to pivot to something else.
Yeah, and we already see that Phoenix1, not only is it the tank bans coming through, but also some of Santorin's most played, most successful champions in the the Challenger Split Finals, the Maokai and the Sejuani being taken away, but the Kalista, very powerful pickup overall, being banned away by P1.
And we do end up both with Caitlyn and Kalista banned as a result. GCU bans the Caitlyn, and it kind of indicates that they will probably first pick the Kalista if it comes through. It does not. That gets banned away as well. And they go with the first pick, Tristana here. Liked what they saw to Rikara later on in the game, and maybe, you know, after the game they recap, they say, hey, Rikara, you know, do you think if you take Tristana again, you'll be able to put out a better early game? And maybe he says yes, and they're going to double down on that idea here.
Well, that does expose the Elise, which was banned away in the previous matchup, that Phoenix1 may take for themselves, and they will. So MikeYeung going to be getting another early game aggressive jungler, something that now brings a bit of CC to the table. We'll see if they pair that up with, you know, they kind of go to Elise Renekton combination to get that top lane snowballing ahead, or if they're just taking that away for the early game pressure.
We'll have to see, as it looks like once again they're already going for that Varus pick potentially. A little bit better pick-off tools with the Elise over the Nidalee. The chain CC follow-up as well as the execute damage does lead to a bit stronger of a mid-game pick-off when you start having vision control and stuff like that. But it didn't feel like that was necessarily the problem with Phoenix1 last game.
No, we see that with the Varus pickup in the first phase, now they're kind of matching what Gold United has gotten, so potentially not wanting to have one of their own roles banned out here. The Jarvan going to be, and once again, a flex pick for GCU picked up early on, but the Orianna is going to be picked up, which was banned away from Fly in Game 1.
And it's one of his best champions, so the fact that this time around on blue side, GCU is able to grab that for Fly is huge. We also pair it with the Tristana, an age-old combination where Orianna is able to shield and speed up the Tristana as well as set up the reset potential by pulling multiple members together and getting them all low for Tristana to clean up. So a great combination there as P1 once again goes back to that Corki pick in the mid lane for Ryu. Able to win the game single-handedly, but not in the way you would have expected when I say that.
Yeah, so Ryu going to the Corki, one of his most played champions. We saw him win that matchup last game because of the Corki pick overall. You mentioned Fly's Orianna kind of being his best champion. 9-0, 13.4 KDA. So big expectations on Fly in this matchup, who already was in the Cassiopeia versus Corki match. You mentioned a little bit better for the Cassiopeia, specifically in the early game, getting advantages over Ryu and kind of being a saving grace for Santorin, who's being punished by MikeYeung early on.
And here you see some of the pivoting things. So obviously Phoenix1 takes the Varus earlier on this time around. Doesn't want to risk that one, maybe being banned away. It is one of Arrow's best champions. We were talking about how in spring his Varus and Jhin were amazing, and that's kind of what keyed Phoenix1 to a lot of their victories. So they don't want to risk losing that one. But as a result, with this increased priority on Varus, both top laners do not have their champions taken, whereas both were taken in the first round in the previous draft. So the Gnar going to be banned away from solo, had a pretty great performance on that. Just went even in laning phase versus Renekton, outscaled, had some good team fights, a couple of mistakes as well, but for the most part was what was kicking those fights off for GCU.
Yeah, and also that if by targeting down on Solo's champion pool, one of the next best most played champions is, you know, the Jarvan in the top lane, one of the most successful ones that he's had throughout the Challenger split. So pinching down on Solo's champion pool a little bit and potentially making it so that two champion pools are being pinched down. Now only one of them can get the Jarvan, and the other one's going to wind up being banned down and away. The Renekton being banned away by Gold United kind of doubles down on a little bit now on this top lane pool as well. They've already gotten the Jarvan. What is Zig going to wind up playing? And well, he's still got Kled, so...
Yes, so Zig takes the Kled blind. This is something that you saw a lot earlier on in the split. It was a very common champion just to take And it's especially good into solo because we talk about how he has a great Jarvan and a great Gnar, but he also has a great Rumble, which is not strong into Kled. So as a result, we see him going for the Shen as well as the Braum. So GCU once again ended up with a very strong team fighting team comp. A lot of tanks on their side. And P1 a little bit more focused on team fighting this time around with the Kled, but he can still be used for pickoffs as well. So we'll have to see exactly what P1 rounds their comp out here with in the support position.
Something tanky would kind of be my guess, but it looks like they might hover over the Lulu. So once again, going with a composition that doesn't necessarily have a very dedicated front line aside from Zig, who will be most likely itemizing for kind of, you know, like that pseudo off-tank damage build on the Kled, and a very strong front line from the side of Goldcoin United. They get a little bit more early game damage with the Orianna versus the Cassiopeia, but P1's lineup looking very similar to what they had last time around, just with, I guess technically they've replaced the Thresh Lantern with an Elise Cocoon.
Yes, so GCU kind of going once again for that team fight comp. One thing worth noting, you said about the Cassiopeia versus Orianna into Corki, is that Cassio, for the most part, does a lot better job skirmishing the Corki early on. She can actually match the DPS that he puts out, just because both you have abilities, but the E is extremely strong and is almost like a stronger auto attack in a sense. If you're able to weave those in with your autos as well, you become very powerful. The thing about marksmen in the mid lane is that they get to have their spells available to them, like a Phos Bomb that Corki has, but then his autos also hurt a lot as you build AD. So here, Orianna does not quite match up as well to the purely auto trading. So it's a little bit tougher of a matchup, but you're hoping Fly can make up for that with the fact that he is on his Orianna pick.
Yeah, and that also mentioning the fact that the stronger team fight is once again on the side of Goldcoin United. You're hoping that his late game Orianna or his team fight Orianna play, which is what has pulled Goldcoin United through the Challenger Series, continues to be something that they can rely on here against Phoenix1 in their bit more of a scrappy kind of team composition. We'll see though, now that they have MikeYeung on this Elise pickup who brings some crowd control out of the jungle, if they're able to capitalize on some of those skirmishes and some of those kills that his Nidalee was not able to do early on. Game number 2 now, Phoenix1's already up 1-0, despite what it looked like at the end of that last game, game 1. Goldcoin United, they're looking to strike back here on blue side this time around. Like you mentioned, a very beefy lineup.
Game 2, MikeYeung probably going to be one of the focal points this game to see how he does on the Elise pick. Not quite as renowned as his Nidalee, but also down the bot side. Different matchup, no longer Thresh Morgana, it's Braum and Lulu, which is actually an even better matchup for P1's bot lane, arguably. So this is going to be one of the key focal points for me in the series, because when Rikara lost that lane in game 1, as hard as he did, there wasn't an obvious, oh, well, he lost Flash level 1, or he got killed, or Rikara, you know, or Arrow got a couple kills in a random skirmish and then dumpstered him in lane. It was from minute 1 with no set advantages for Phoenix1 to get that big of a lead. So that was very scary for me in terms of how well Rikara can do from the rest of the game. You hope it's nerves and you hope he's settled in from then, but with how they lost last game, how does his mental state bounce back from a game like that?
Well, he was kind of the driving force into their comeback as well. So despite being down early, he was able to come up big late, but the rest of the team just kind of watch Ryu slip through their cracks and take that Nexus in the back door. But as you mentioned, how does the mental state of some of these players from Goldcoin United kind of translate over? As we mentioned, also on the top side of the map, Solo had some very team fight, huge Gnar ultimates that were coming in. And Solo himself has been in the Challenger Series for 2.5, almost 3 years now at this point, and is looking in the final promotion tournament to finally kind of get, like, you know, what he's been looking for this entire time, finally being able to take down an LCS team and make a name for himself. He was that close to winning a game 1 in a series against an LCS team, and it was stolen away from him. So how do they respond, and what do they wind up doing this game is going to be very important here. As you mentioned, the catalyst could be between these two junglers. MikeYeung on the aggressive early Elise pick, now Santorin trying to make up for the fact that he was, well, pretty much out-jungled all early game in game 1.
Did have to deal with the fact that Xpecial was in his jungle, you know, level 2, level 3, with that Thresh pick after P1 was destroying the bot side. Once again, could be an issue this time around.
So Rikara taking already a bit of damage from the hail of arrows. This time around, he's got Madlife, so the Braum, although not the best laning support, will provide a little bit of a protection for the Tristana. No black shield, though, so if Rikara's going not getting polymorphed or slowed up or whatever, he's not going to be able to just put that shield on and walk away. Madlife's going to have to be at the front, blocking it with his unbreakable shield. So we'll see if that continued bottom advantage for P1 exists in this game, but if the continued advantage that the GCU got around the mid lane here with Fly bullying out Ryu as the Cassiopeia, can he do something very similar, as you mentioned, to Orianna not being able to go as toe-to-toe with Ryu, but are they going to be able to group up with Santorin and try to at least get vision control around that side of the map?
Love to see, as once again, MikeYeung already lurking.
Da-da.
Nah, he's not staying around too long. I would like to see GCU just play a little bit more aggressive. We talk about them being a team that often looks for the perfect opportunity to pull the trigger. And with Braum and J4, you do actually have a very powerful gank down the bot lane, and there's not great defensive tools with that Lulu pick. So I would love to see them go for a little bit more aggressive of a gank down there in the bot lane. You see in a situation like that just happened, you have the opportunity to potentially continue forward, drop that exhaust, and brute force a gank or two. But it's going to be pretty hard to do now that Rikara gets chunked out, forced low, and it's one of the dangers of ganking your losing lane is starting at a health deficit.
Well, very interesting as well. This has been something that's kind of cropped up, you know, in the LPL so far. We've seen AD carries taking barrier and the support taking heal. This time around, Arrow's gone for a cleanse, so maybe not wanting to go for the extremely early QSS, and Xpecial going for the heal early on. They usually pair this up by going for a very fast Ardent Sensor and sacrificing their Sightstone because of that. So if this is something that P1, you know, kind of has in their playbook and is on their radar, Ken Santorin, you know, the vision control jungler, somebody that on Jarvan has a lot of early game pressure. He blows a Summoner Spell on the bottom side of the map that could set P1's bottom lane very, very far behind.
It does feel like Arrow, to an extent, favors cleanses a little too much. We talked about that QSS purchase that was extremely early in the previous game. Here, taking that cleanse once again instead of potentially going for a barrier, like you said. Not a ton. I mean, there is the flash taunt that you're concerned about, or as well as maybe a Braum stun, but a lot of CC, once again, not super cleansable. Both the Orianna Shockwave, J4 knockup, those kinds of things are not going to have that much of an impact out of that cleanse.
And we'll see if in the later stages of the game, if Arrow's able to utilize that Summoner Spell effectively, or if even in the lane phase, it's able to keep himself alive. But for now, they're continuing to play up and aggressive on the bottom side of the map, a 9 CS advantage in Arrow's favor. Ryu, though, going toe-to-toe with Fly in the mid lane, pretty much even across the board there. As you see, Fly kind of shoved under his tower for the time being, but A-OK to just see us on the Darkstar Orianna skin. And the top side of the map, once again, going ever so slightly in Solo's favor on the Shen versus the Kled.
Yeah, but this is the lane to watch. Once again, the wave pushed in heavily under GCU's turret. Already getting some chip damage down on there. And that one strat that you're referencing about the barrier heal, Ardent Sensor rush kind of stuff, you often see it with more champions like Kog'Maw, a little bit more the hyper-scaling look. I'm sure you can do it with Varus, just not quite as popular. And it's the kind of thing now where Rikara, with that wave, has caught closer to Arrow, doing a better job CSing this time around. Last game, it was already a 15 CS deficit. Here, pretty much even.
Yeah, and we saw already Xpecial going back very early on to pick up a Nomad's Medallion. Kind of left Arrow by himself for a little bit, which let Rikara kind of catch back up and push the wave out a little bit. Now he's going to be getting 40 extra gold for each one of those little coins that drops that he picks up. Potentially trying to accelerate his own gold income to try to go for this strategy. Really want to keep my eyes peeled on this one, because as we've seen, even the last week of the LCS, we saw FlyQuest. Lemon Nation was going for extremely, extremely fast Ardent Sensor rushes. We saw Gate on Echo Fox doing something very, very similar. We didn't even buy a Sight Stone. The entire team stayed on the warding trinkets to keep themselves safe.
I mean, coins are just the hallmark of good game design if you really break it down, right? You have Sonics, you have Marios, and now in League of Legends, you too can collect coins.
Oh, man. That, you know what? I believe that. I mean, technically, if you look at, like, the Zeldas of the universe, they don't have coins, they have rupees. Basically the same thing, different type of currency.
Just love picking stuff off the ground.
So then the next champion's going to have a pot smashing kind of kit where you smash a pot and you pick up an upgrade, and that's what's going to happen.
Maybe. I don't think Orange's kit does that. Anyways, we see Santorin making his way down into this bot side here through the brush. He's able to get into it, and GCU are going to pull the trigger. Yeah,
Goldcoin trying to capitalize it. They burn the flash from Xpecial. The explosive charge, though, was popped, and it's actually Braum that gets first blood.
Oh, nice gank there out of GCU. Exactly what I was saying I was hoping to see out of this bot lane. They do have that ability to just kind of go. They press all their buttons. They jump in. They're able to find a kill. Solo was ulting in as well. Looks like the fact that Zig's ult is on cooldown was traded out to interrupt that one. But as you see, GCU did not really need that. They had the man advantage already with the jungler, as well as the ability to blow up a target. And they get onto Xpecial and kill him right away.
And you can see there's still wards all over the river, but nowhere in the opposing side of the jungle. So GCU able to find a little slip in the coverage there from P1. And Xpecial, looks like he's not going to be covering that up anytime soon. After his untimely death for first blood, goes back and picks up pieces for an Ardent Sensor. So he is going for that item.
He is indeed. While we have been very focused down this bot lane, we'll take another look at this gank. Just starts off with the slow that comes in out of Rikara's jump. Madlife is able to get on top of him as well. They refocus down onto Xpecial, and they're able to get the kill. Very easy kind of follow-up there, especially when J4 gets involved. So a nice start here for GCU compared to game 1.
Yeah, so Gold Coin United already capitalizing on some things they weren't able to do, as you mentioned, in game 1. Now they were able to get a kill on that bottom side of the map. More importantly, the assist goes over to Rikara, so he gets himself a bit of extra gold. Arrow, and an interesting back timing, goes for Berserker's Greaves and only a longsword and a dagger, so he doesn't have the build quarter cutlass, so there's no life steal potential to keep himself a lot healthy and alive in this lane. And Tristana already gone for that BF sword power spike, so a bit more AD on the bottom side here, although there is a Lulu with her help pick shields to keep Arrow a little bit healthier. But P1, although they wind up giving away first blood on the bottom side of the map, are not deterred pretty much, continuing to play super aggressive and super far pushed in.
Well, one of those things about GCU's bot lane is we talk about how many resources they have to blow to turn a gank like that. With Madlife not having his flash and exhaust available, the risk is not quite as bad as long as you have decent vision out. They can't brute force through the lane as hard, as well as the fact that they're doing, they can track Santorin a little bit and know when their windows of safety are up. And then the other thing, of course, worth noting is one of the things that happened last game and why GCU fell behind so hard was because Rikara was losing that lane so badly. They took a very disadvantageous lane swap situation just to get out of that bad matchup. And here, because they're matching up much more evenly, GCU is not forced or pressured into just getting out of laning phase as quickly as possible.
So Arrow doesn't have the jump start to his gold, count the fact that he has a huge CS advantage and solo first tower gold to Santorin. Potentially making a repeat visit onto this bottom side of the map. There's no additional wards down here for the side of P1. And once again, Rikara's going to start this off. The flash and the Tristana knocks him backwards. Arrow's going to get the wild growth, but he's going to wind up being cut down. The kill gold goes over to Rikara.
And MikeYeung was in the area, but not able to get down there in time. You get to see the power of this gank come out of GCU. Rikara starting it off. Who's ganking who?
We were wondering about the mental fortitude of Rikara, and here he's flashing and jumping forward on Tristana to set up ganks for his jungler who's coming down.
Yeah, very aggressive play out of him. They had that summoner advantage. Rikara's was still available. Arrows was down from the first gank attempt, and they do a good job playing around that. And this is one of the things that we were saying GCU does very well, is they play the game intelligently, if nothing else. They can identify where they have strengths, weaknesses, and how to play around them. Now, sometimes they over-focus on saying, oh, we don't have a clear advantage, we can't do anything. But in a situation like this, where you have some summoner's advantage down the bot side, as well as good gank setup down there, they will find opportunities to do that.
It's a very interesting kind of change here.
Uh-oh,
Arrow. Walk up for Rikara's jumping in. Chain of Crusher wants it landing down to Madlife, but now Solo's joined the fray, and Rikara 2-0-1.
Oh god, the tale of two games, huh? Game 1, Rikara gets blasted in lane. This time around, with the help of his team, they are abusing Arrow. 3 kills down this bot side already, killing him as soon as he returns to lane. And this is what we're saying. If they feel like they have an advantage somewhere, they know how to play around it, able to use that Shen ultimate to combo together for another kill. Now that said, they don't get any objectives off of it. Dragon's still available, and they're not getting any turrets, as well as allowing Zig some alone time up in the top side here. So it's not like it was completely free play to make, but you're definitely happy to continue getting kills onto this Tristana.
750 gold advantage now for the Tristana over the Varus. P1 are going to be making a very quick response play to try to get down that neutral objective on the bottom side of the map before GCU will feel comfortable enough to take it for themselves. So like you mentioned before, GCU likes having complete control of an area before they contest the objective. P1 on the other hand, they just go for it as soon as they can, and they're able to take down that Ocean Drake. Is Zig now going to get caught out here by Solo? Has 2 assists to his name because he's stand united twice. One of them he showed up to the party. The other one he was interrupted, but has a Tiamat for himself, so some extra damage on that Shen as well.
My favorite kind of assist, Tom, the ones where you don't actually have to do much. Press R on him, you get interrupted. Who cares? You get that gold too a little bit.
Yeah, I would peg you for being the lazy assist kind of person. But in the mid lane here, no slouch coming out from Fly. We mentioned his Cassiopeia wasn't getting a ton of the kills in the game, but he's keeping complete control of this mid lane. And you know how much you love your mid lane control and mid lane priority here. About a 15 CS advantage in favor of Fly. More importantly, keeping Ryu pinned in this mid lane when he had the package opened up that Rift Herald take for GCU.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that was the problem last game, was Ryu with his package able to go around and influence other objectives. He had a couple pickoffs, one down the bot side that got them one of their first Elder Dragons. Those are the kinds of plays Ryu can make. He's a playmaking mid laner for the most part, and so when you're able to take someone like Fly, give him Orianna, and then hold him in lane, that really does limit what you can expect Ryu to do typically.
Well, so now that the Rift Herald in their pocket, we'll see if Gold Coin United are going to feel content to try to push down around any sort of objective towers. Santorin's already on the bottom side of the map, and they have a control ward in that brush, so they know this is going to be A-okay and safe. But now the big question is, do they try to brute force down this tower? Do they wait for P1 to push out and have Santorin counter?
We'll have to see. I mean, they do have some vision up in the top jungle, so they may be aware that this is a strong play for them to go for, that the other jungler isn't going to be able to get up there to stop it. But it looks like they're going to play it a little bit slower. Shen ultimate still coming up off cooldown. About 20 seconds left on that one. Might be waiting for it, or just trying to cover and make sure that they siege this turret down. Not playing super aggressive right now.
One of the things I've noticed is we talked about Solo, we talked about Santorin a lot, and we've been mentioning Rikara. One of the names we haven't heard from is MikeYeung, who on this Elise pickup we thought was going to do a lot of things in the early game. Just kind of been power farming this Elise pickup and has not had the same impact that it really did in game 1.
It's one of those situations where, for the most part, you don't have great gank setup. You can potentially look at the top side if Kled's able to layer in that bear trap on a rope and pull the Shen back underneath. Or back closer, you potentially get a dive off there. But your bot lane does not bring a ton of setup. They'll have pressure, you can push them in, but you see he doesn't have great tools to start that gank off, and if they're under their turret, you're not really a bot lane that's looking to dive, right? And that's on top of the fact that GCU was able to be the ones who turned a lot of plays around there. Mid lane, Corki, no setup, so not the easiest lanes for MikeYeung to gank, but still not a great performance out of him as GCU drops that Rift Herald to mid lane.
Boom! Mid lane, Corki went back to pick up his Trinity for his power spike. Rift Herald's going to headbutt spike down that mid lane tower and get the first tower gold for the side of GCU.
Hey, Ryu.
You forgot. Oh, he went for the blue buff first. It's like, the minions will hold him there for a sec. Poke him in the eye.
That was one CS that the opponent got from the Rift Herald.
Yeah,
as well as the fact, I don't think anyone got the local gold on the turret either. So.
I think that the Rift Herald just charged it down. So no bonus first tower gold in the local area, but let's look at the overall first tower gold.
Yes, so there you see a 1,000 gold lead thereabouts for GCU. As they pick up another big minion wave, growing now to about 1,500.
A lot of that's actually just Rikara over Arrow, about 900 gold in their favor.
And yeah, last game, game 1, it was about a 2K gold lead for Arrow 20 minutes in. Now 15 minutes in, like you said, 900 for Rikara. Quite a different game state to the previous game, as well as the fact that GCU's comp, like we were saying, should probably outscale in team fights.
And one of the goofiest things is the fact that Madlife got first blood as 1-0 and 2, and Xpecial died for first blood and still has 100 extra gold compared to Madlife.
What are you trying to say about Coin there, Tom? I feel like you're trying to say something about Coin.
I'm trying to say that the early back for the Nomad's Medallion is definitely keeping Xpecial toe-to-toe against his direct lane opponent, but the 0-2 and 0 Arrow on this Varus is falling behind early on. We've mentioned how powerful it was as a lane bully in the early stage of the game, but this time now Rikara's going to survive that point of the game.
And GCU, for the most part, has turned some ganks down the bot lane. And you can look at that and say, well, if you went Sightstone first, would you have been able to prevent some of those ganks? Would you have better vision control? But for the most part, P1 did get a turret. They did, fall prone to lane ganks, which are very hard to ward against generally anyways. So I have a little bit of a hard time saying it's just because the early Nomad's Medallion. But for the most part, it seems to be paying off, being able to stay even in gold at this point.
Well, fully completed Ardent Sensor now for Xpecial, and as soon as that item is completed, we'll see MikeYeung shy his way down to the bottom side of the map. So we'll see if the investment banking from Xpecial is going to pay off here, as his first item has been built up and ready to go. Putting down another control ward, trying to get MikeYeung ever so slightly closer. Maybe go for this kind of tower setup. The Dragon's going to be available in about 45 seconds as well. Looks like P1 knows that Santorin's going to be in the area. They actually already spot out MikeYeung, and they have to fall back as Fly's rotating down from mid lane as well.
That's a very interesting play that just happened right there. GCU, with the superior vision control that they have available to them, went to the jungle and completely deep warded up the bot side. And if they were tracking camps closely, they would have known there were no camps up in the top side. So MikeYeung has to be sitting in the lane somewhere. And due to all the pink wards that were being thrown down in the bot side, you can probably deduce MikeYeung is sitting in that bot river brush. So Fly roams down, Santorin collapses as well to force them out of that situation. if that was what GCU did, that's a very intelligent play and something that I really like seeing, because it was you kind of figure out where the spider's hiding just by process of elimination.
Yeah, and because of that, because of the deep wards and all the amount of pressure they're putting on the bottom side of the map, P1 just has to completely back away from their tower on the bottom side, and they lose the second tower of the game. The Ocean Dragon has spawned up, so even though they snuck the first one away, Goldcoin United are going to be free to take this one.
Going to get their first dragon of the series, really, at least first elemental dragon. They were able to get one elder dragon, but...
The first Drake of the series.
Ah, is that the difference?
Yeah, these are elemental drakes, and then there's the elder dragon. But they all count as dragons in the game.
I'm sure someone somewhere talking about, you know, mythical biology is going to be upset that we call drakes and dragons under the same
It's kind of like all squares are, all rectangles are squares and all squares are not rectangles. But all team fights are not made equal either. P1 looks to be the ones to go for this one, but it's turned around by GCU. Santorin and MikeYeung both has to flash the heck out of there. Saw Zig getting dismounted from Skarl, and P1 trying to make an aggressive play, but GCU saying nope.
Yeah, overall, not a bad opportunity there by P1. They find an angle on to Fly, but very good awareness out of GCU as a team, as well as some good plays in general. Santorin able to lock them down away from Fly. The Shockwave as well, I believe, pulled one of the members off him. I think it was Elise. So they were able to get some distance between Fly and the damage dealers. Shen comes in as well, and they disengage that fight. But now Madlife caught out.
Madlife kind of trying to go on a solo warding mission, flash it over the Baron pit wall, but he's going to go down. MikeYeung gets his first kill of the game.
This is a situation where there's a skirmish in the mid lane, people have to reset out, and it felt like Madlife wanted to move in during the downtime of the skirmish to find his own wards on his own. Santorin and Madlife usually do a good job of meeting up, but Santorin was chunked out. Madlife goes down, and now P1 has a bit of a power play here up on the top side.
Yeah, so trying to transition their aggression onto this top side of the map. We did see that Zig was, you know, being able to deal a decent amount of damage to solo underneath his tower, so that one might be pushed down a little bit. We do see Rikara up there just making sure the waves are pushed back evenly. We see the denial of a bat coming in from P1 against Fly, so pushing up on the mid lane at the same exact time they're threatening on the top side of the map. Pings going out from the side of GCU. Know that Zig is on the bottom side here. The catch gets coming down onto Santorin. But Goldcoin United are rotating all over the map to try to defend against the waves P1 is pushing up. They also defend against the jungle invade that Zig has been throwing down here. As Zig dashes or jousts back over, but is not going to be able to steal that red buff away.
Good job by GCU, kind of stemming the bleeding a little bit there. Madlife does get picked off, but no objectives go down. But the gold lead did shrink a little bit, down to about 1,000 now off that, despite the fact that GCU, or excuse me, yeah, about 1,000. GCU has 2 turrets up to P1's 0, so if P1's able to find an opportunity to get some turrets, they might be able to claw their way back into a gold lead here.
So P1 going for a blue buff steal, but looks like it was secured by the side of GCU. Solo and Zig on the bottom side of the map are going to go toe-to-toe with both their teleports available. And the Shen Stand United still on cooldown, so P1 will feel content to kind of match the solo laners in that regard. As you mentioned now, with a bit of a gold shrinking, or the gold lead shrinking in GCU's favor, P1 has acquired a Sightstone onto Xpecial, actually picked up a full Eye of the Oasis, so now they're going to be content to try to push forward and get some aggressive vision control so they can utilize things like this Ryu package. They're actually trying to wrap around on the solo on the bottom side of the map. Corki's made it down to the Tribarch, and Zig posturing super aggressively against solo underneath this tower. Now it's going to be Ryu who's drawn the tower. They're poking down on them. They don't even need the package or damage just to get Ryu in range, and they take down solo.
Good play out of P1. They're able to move up to the Shen lane, attack the global, get a kill onto it, exactly what you want to do. And this is what we're saying with Ryu, is that Fly had done a good job in the early game of controlling him and making sure he can't get onto the map and make anything happen. But with that package timing, Ryu's able to find a kill onto the Shen. They grab their first turret of the game and catapult themselves up to a 1,000 gold lead off the back of that play.
Yeah, so P1 in the early game may not be as in control and as favorable as it was in game number 1, but now cresting the 20-minute mark, they get able to get themselves back into this one, mitigate the advantages the GCU have been slowly building up to the 20-minute mark, and now have a gold lead for themselves. So if you're Goldcoin United, you took your first tower off of a Rift Herald, and as you mentioned, nobody was in the area for the local gold. You got your bottom lane tower after setting up repeat ganks in the bottom lane that basically stemmed from the first blood kill. Eventually, you hampered down on that one. Now you're finally moving up to take your third and final outer tower. This is pretty much just going to even the gold count up. So although you're up in objectives, you're even in gold, and you might not even be able to get this one scot-free as P1 are trying to get aggressive in here. Madlife popped the Braum ultimate, actually going to get polymorphed as well, so you can't wind up flashing away. The Shen ultimate Stand United will not channel through as MikeYeung picks up another kill for P1, and they barely defend their tower.
A nice look there out of P1. GCU getting just slightly too aggressive up around that top lane. Never actually finished the turret off as they're trying to greed for last hits on it. Good CC that comes out of P1. Pick off Madlife under the turret. They also get the Shen global out. They continue to push forward, grabbing their second turret of the game, and now ballooning up to a 2,500 gold lead.
Yeah, so, I mean, one of the things we wanted to see was GCU utilizing their leads more effectively and playing a little bit more aggressive. Maybe they've been doing it a little bit too much or a little too little because they weren't able to push his advantages that fast. And now P1 have all of a sudden, in the span of 1 minute, completely flipped the gold lead that GCU had early on into their advantage.
And there you see the CC goes down on Santorin. He EQs out, but that tentacle spreads over to Madlife. He gets CC'd up. MikeYeung also shoots Cocoon, then he gets polymorph, never has a chance to really get out of there. And the Shen ult can't complete. P1 finds the kill, evens the kill lead up and the turret lead, but the gold now is in their favor. And one of the things P1's comp can do is split push relatively effectively. I mean, Kled's not going to be one of those champions that starts murdering people in the side lane that easily, but with the Corki package available, as well as Kled's ultimate, they do have a lot of tools to kind of quickly get around the map. And you might see some roams down to the Shen, and as long as they can kill him, he can't use his globals as easily. And then you might have the Kled teleport in, or different things like that can happen. So they can attack that Shen lane relatively aggressively.
Both of those top laners, or solo laners so far, have the Titanic Hydra, but Kled a little bit more itemized for damage, has a Black Cleaver as well. So his wave clear is going to be a bit more effective, as we do see Zig about 20 CS advantage over his counterpart in solo, and being the one to aggress the waves onto his opponent's side of the map. Now we're seeing Infernal Drake has spawned on the map, so both of these teams indexing on some damage. 2 carries from the side of GC would like that, and everybody on P1 would be pretty much like that, since they have kind of gone full on damage in these builds so far. They're going to be the ones to just aggressively attack it. Look at the vision control that P1 has. They have basically a couple of wards around the river, the entrances to the opposing jungle warded off, and just a control ward in the pit. Golcon United, if they had that vision control, still wouldn't feel confident going for that objective.
I think that's a great point. Just the difference in willingness to pull the trigger on things. P1 is a team that feels like, if we can maybe burn this down, let's go for it. Whereas GCU is, let's get vision control of everything, let's force them into us, let's look for the perfect TP flank and stuff like that. And it feels like sometimes that results in them missing out on some objectives or plays that they can turn. Here you see P1, like you said, they're there first, they have decent enough vision to know if the enemy's coming in towards them. All right, let's try it out. And they're able to get the Infernal Dragon very quickly. It was a very similar story for the first Ocean Dragon that they took as well.
They kind of have like a very short checklist, whereas GCU seems like they have to go over like this entire schedule of events they have to go through. P1 is like, are they here? No? Ours.
Yeah, and you see it, I mean, GCU's playstyle does work very effectively sometimes. Yeah. They're able to brute force 3 kills down the bot side off small advantages because they recognize them. But you saw last game, when they really started coming back into the game, was when they just started taking any fight. Not just the best fights, but any fight that they could find. And slowly their team comp allowed them to win those fights. Here, once again, they do have the superior team fighting team comp, but it's not as drastic as it was before, as Elise is a little bit better, as well as the Kled being able to provide some more engaged tools than a Renekton.
And Golcon United's vision control has been, I want to say, actually, good command shot play, locks down the arrows. We need to talk about vision when there's a fight going on. This mid lane tower dropping extremely low, and P1 trying to threaten on this one. So as I was trying to say, Golcon United's vision control hasn't been as dominant as it has been in the Challenger Series, and I don't necessarily know if that's a factor that P1 is doing a great job of clearing vision control away. They do have 3 sweepers on their side, so that may be just a factor of that. But it's also the fact that, you mentioned earlier, the early game presence from Arrow and Xpecial on the bottom lane continuously pushing up, and their wards being utilized for control over that area to gank them down, and the fact that the P1 is continuing to just kind of run them ragged around the map, like Zig in the top lane here, Corki on the bottom lane.
Well, P1 is a team that has always favored the 1-3-1. They liked Ryu on LeBlanc the most. That's when their team was at their best, is when they set up these 1-3-1s. And you saw in the previous game, they went for some 1-3-1 setups in situations where it wasn't necessarily the best, and the Cassiopeia was able to chunk out the Varus. This time around versus the Orianna, Arrow's doing a little bit better of a job keeping the pressure up, and they're able to actually, despite not having as big of a lead, execute the 1-3-1 slightly better, as Zig finished up that turret up on the top side, and the one in the mid lane is very low and close to going down.
Ooh, this is a very non-GCU play, as They have only a couple of wards in the area, and they immediately rush down on this Baron. A teleport's being channeled by Solo. P1, though, coming over the wall. There's a Corki package on Ryu. If they spot this, this could be devastating for GCU. Command Shockwave is going to be repelled away from by MikeYeung. Baron about 2,000 HP, but MikeYeung's being chunked out. Ryu not going over the wall. P1 don't go and commit for the fight, and GCU are able to capitalize and take a Baron.
Nice decision out of GCU there. It was a little risky. MikeYeung had flash and could have repelled into the pit as well, but they chunked him out. They were able to kind of stall damage at the right times, not damaging the Baron when he's up and propelled into the air. And that was just punishing a little bit of a recall timing out of P1 there. Arrow was stuck in the mid lane while everyone else was recalling for the most part, and GCU just pulled the trigger on that Baron.
And that's very proactive play coming out from Goldcoin United. P1 are going to be able to potentially take this tower down in the mid lanes. It basically had no HP left, and Ryu's just going to breathe on it, and it falls down. So P1 are able to take the first tower of this Baron buff play from Goldcoin United. But now GCU, they have the ability to kind of utilize this Baron as like a stem the bleeding kind of thing. They had advantages in the early game. They weren't super massive. P1's aggressive plays, around the 20-minute mark, got themselves the gold lead back. But now, they're kind of putting the brakes on P1, and that's where they were able to kind of capitalize in the late game of game one. Is once they halted P1's aggression, they took control.
I'll be very curious to see how GCU decides to use this Baron, because they can just take it off the map, stop P1 from being able to get it in, and decrease the speed at which P1 wants to grow their gold lead. Alternatively, you do have the ability to pressure now with these Baron-empowered minions to potentially pin P1 under their turret, and your team can dive. It does have the tools to threaten very aggressively. If P1 continues to try and split up all over the map, you can potentially punish just 2 people in the mid lane if that's the situation that ends up. I would like to see GCU go more that route.
Well, they are potentially starting a siege here as P1 are under their own tower and just have to sit back and wave clear. You got the Shen down on the bottom side of the map, but there are no Global's available. Actually, the teleport's unavailable. The Stand United has come back up. So the Shen Stand United could join the fray. Goldcoin United trying to push up in this mid lane here, but P1, they do have a decent amount of wave clear. There's a Varus and a Corki after all, and one of them at least deals a lot of damage to those minions.
Yeah, it's still very hard for GCU to force down if P1 does group up like they are right now. But you just slowly want to whittle this turret down. Tristana does have great range. There, the Varus ultimate comes out, locks down onto Rikara.
Yeah, just kind of forcing them back in a way, though. They only have about a minute and 50 seconds left on this Baron buff, and P1 want to mitigate the amount of control that GCU can gain back from having. It's kind of making it a pause button rather than kind of a bit of a fast forward for Goldcoin United and their gold deficit at this point. But Solo has built himself up a decent amount of wave on the bottom side, and Zig has to deal with this on the bottom tower. Tower's still pretty healthy though, but if Solo's left there undisturbed, it will wind up going down, and that lets GCU in the mid lane push up slowly but surely to take down another tower. Now it's evened up at 4 towers apiece and cut the gold lead to only about 2,000 gold in P1's favor.
Yeah, P1's been completely on the back foot during this Baron power play. They have it for about another minute, which will be during the time the second Infernal of the game will be spawning. So GCU will look to kind of combo this into tying up the Dragon advantage that currently P1 has.
P1 has been able to steal the Scuttle Crab away, so they'll know if GCU is going for this. But if GCU just turn and burn this Infernal Drake, I don't think there's much that P1 can do, considering they had to go back to base to heal themselves up. So Infernal Drake's going to go over to GCU.
Aha, we see you doing the very obvious neutral objective. Excellent work, Scuttle Crab.
Scuttle Crab is kind of snitched on GCU, but still P1 had to do something with the information to capitalize, and unfortunately, they go back and buy some items.
I'm gonna have both teams resetting here after a bit of an extended siege situation. But like you said, very important. GCU's shrunk the gold deficit to about 2,500 after they have been down by even more, and they also, prevented P1 from potentially being able to force around that Baron, something we know P1 would not be shy about doing.
Now P1, once again, kind of setting themselves up in an interesting kind of split scenario. Ryu, I don't think, has necessarily been grouped up with his team unless it's to defend against that Baron buff push underneath the tower. Whereas Zig is now going back onto the top side of the map, with MikeYeung kind of put some vision control into the jungle behind him. Has a control ward or 2 in his inventory for himself. And Arrow, once again, on wave clear duty in the mid lane here. So P1, now that the Baron buff has wound down from Goldcoin United, they've kind of survived for the point in time here. Still have the gold lead, and now we're just going to kind of go back to what they were doing about 3.5, 4 minutes ago when GCU kind of put the pause button on.
But as the pause bought enough time, see Rikara getting a on the bot side.
Super aggressive, gets the double jump reset off of that explosive charge. Eats another tower shot, barely survives thanks to Stand United. That's going to wind up being Zig coming in with the Kled ult, but the charge comes in and they lock down on the Solo, who's in the front line with Madlife. P1 looking for the fight. The chain encryption goes down. Solo winds up putting up the dodge zone, but he's going to wind up having to flash away. Xpecial has to use the wild goods on himself. Now Zig's getting locked up in the front side, tries to flash out of the cataclysm, but lands into the wall. Ryu is there to provide some extra damage as he takes down Santorin, and now Goldcoin United has to try to flash and dash the heck out of there. P1 are chasing him down. Arrow still very healthy in the front line. As I say that, he wants it going down, but Ryu flashes forward, goes on to a killing spree, picks up the kill on the fly. Once again, they have Madlife being chunked out. The Unbreakable Shield will barely stay alive, as now Solo gives up his life as MikeYeung goes on a killing spree. P1 chasing down on the Madlife. It's a 4 for none for P1.
And funnily enough, Rikara is the sole survivor at full health after he was the one who initiated that fight way back under P1's inner turret, diving slightly too aggressively and pulling into a 5-man team fight. Very well played by P1, juggling aggro from GCU's backline. Fly and Rikara kind of have to melt the closest target, and they made sure to always swap those people out. MikeYeung went in when Zig got low, and Zig gets his remount and goes back in. They did a great job juggling GCU's damage there. They're able to win that fight, push all the way down, and grab a bot inhibitor with Baron respawning in a minute.
P1 are able to turn around the aggression from GCU. We saw Rikara making a very aggressive play, which is, I mean, uncharacteristic from Goldcoin United. You could see him pretty much in a 1v1 duel with Ryu, thinking he could jump through a tower.
Right, and he has the Shen ult backing him up, so he knows he's safe to kind of keep getting aggressive. But this second jump here is so aggressive, his team has to blow a lot of resources to keep him alive, and now they're extended with a Kled coming in who wants to brute force because this Tristana now has to play this team fight so much safer. He can't risk getting hit by any residual damage by a Corki or something, so you see how far back he is. He's slowly life stealing up. MikeYeung is late to the fight, but he has extra defensive tools built. He has a Gargoyle Stoneplate. He has these things, so he's not just damaged completely. He goes in, he takes a lot of focus down. Santorin gets finished off, and there you see the Gargoyle Stoneplate get popped, able to save relatively around half health. Arrow flashes forward. Ziggs trying to heal back up, trying to remount, and P1's able to keep chasing. Solo had actually backed off and teleported back into this fight, but he gets there a little bit too late. Fly gets dropped. If he was alive during this section of the fight, maybe they could have won, but this is what we're saying P1 did so well, this skirmish style where they keep trading targets in and out. Able to get 4 members down as they finish off Madlife there.
As you mentioned at the end of that fight, Rikara, the one who starts it all off, the sole survivor, and just look at the amount of damage the 2 carries from the side of P1 have been putting out. Ryu flashing forward, getting damage down. It's actually had to lose that chart because another fight's about to break out. They caught on to MikeYeung, has to pop the Gargoyle Stoneplate as well. Wild Growth getting channeled as well, but Santorin leaps into the backline with a Cataclysm. Shutdown coming out from Fly, and he still has the command Shockwave available.
They do pick off MikeYeung, but a couple members get low. Fly down around 130. Santorin around half. They're going to force down onto this Baron now to try and convert the tower play. There's no smite to contest.
Yeah, so MikeYeung can't smite, steal this one away, but P1 might be able to start a fight anyway. The Kled charge is available as minions are wailing away in favor of GCU on that top lane tower. They try to catch on the Ryu, but he Valkyrie's out. GCU putting the focus back down into the Baron. It's about 2,500 HP. P1, they might have to try to commit to a fight. Smite is their command. Shockwave whisks as Zig wants to go into the backline. They locked up on the Santorin and Solo. Shen is going to wind up going down. Arrow and Ryu are so low, but still alive. Arrow will fall, but they trade for Rikara, and P1 are capitalizing on this Baron play from GCU. A quadra kill picked up for Corki. Fly is the only one left alive, and Ryu's on the hunt for a Penta. The last Baron buff is there for Fly. One more rocket, the fast bomb stops the recall. Ryu, can you do it? You got an ardent sensor on you. Pentakill for Ryu.
Ryu comes up huge in that Baron fight. They have them trapped into the pit. Corki's favorite position to be in, got a shooting gallery in front of him, is able to melt down every member of GCU. And with the Baron, or excuse me, the inhibitor down on the bot side, they're able to meet up with super creeps and end the game.
Once again, it's Ryu who decides when P1 is going to come out victorious, jumping out to a 2-0 advantage in this best of 5. Phoenix1 coming out ahead.
There's the man of the day on your screen right now, basically responsible for both victories. Ryu having a great performance so far in this series on that Corki pick. The game, once again, very scrappy. P1 in a back and forth slugfest, are able to win a fight down the bot side that gets them the Baron kind of advantage where the enemy team feels pressured to force around there because there's super creeps coming in. They want to get the Baron and get out as fast as they can, and they do get the Baron, but they end up trapped up against that wall, and Ryu's able to make quick work of them.
I mean, kind of stepping back from the fact that we are, from everything that happened in that game, we talked about coming into game number 2, the mental fortitude of GCU after suffering a crippling loss like that, or to a Ryu backdoor, and is Rikara, the new guy on the team, going to be able to have the mental fortitude to go toe-to-toe with Arrogant after losing the lane phase that hard? And they crush the bottom lane from P1. They get these early game advantages, but on the side of P1, who looks so defeated, even after winning game 1 by a slimmest of margins, being able to hang in there and bounce back from a deficit and come out ahead just 10 minutes later.
It's a very strange game because both times I liked what I saw out of GCU in some sense in terms of what their comp's trying to do and how Rikara is playing, and then both games they make a couple small mistakes, and P1 has that kind of killer mindset right now where they'll play a very scrappy game and they'll fight for every inch that they can get, and down the bot side was where they were able to do that.
Yeah, and so there was a lot of action packed into that one game, but now let's check in with the analysts to see what they make maybe a little bit of an easier time of that P1 win.
Thank you very much. Pentakill Tom, appreciate it. You get to call that one out there. P1 taking a 2-0 lead here against Goldcoin United.
Yeah, who needs Baron? Just give it away to the other team. It's all set up for Ryu's Pentakill.
Yeah, it was a really awkward setup there. They were just like, hey, Goldcoin United, I think we have an opportunity to take it here, and they did.
Definitely agree. I mean, and again, we see, the power of some of the late game here. A lot of that fight, it was in the bottom lane, where Phoenix1 started chasing them back down. That's where you really regain confidence in the late game for this team. And it flashes forward, and they started getting all the kills coming through. So it looks like Phoenix1 are back on track.
Yeah, it was a tricky game, right? Because there were slight missteps by Phoenix1, falling back a little bit in the early game. But then you looked up at the jungle CS, where MikeYeung has 160 CS on
Elise.
At like,
not a power farmer.
Yeah, 20 minutes or something. So he was farming. He was the majority of their gold lead for a lot of it. And then they still did play a little bit better as a team going down the stretch, even if Goldcoin looked like they had good Baron control.
And they definitely had the team comp that scales later with the Orianna, with the Tristana. Goldcoin looked like, even though it was not a lead, they were just holding on long enough that they could scale. Unfortunately, that didn't quite happen for them. But they did. They were able to take a Baron, a sneaky Baron here, as we go ahead and take a look at this Baron setup.
Yeah, and this is where we need to criticize Phoenix1 a little bit, because they have a gold lead right now, but then they kind of show a bit of a recall from Xpecial. They have Arrow recalling at the same time, and they just allow the Baron to go over. This should almost never happen in a game. You should have someone kind of moving
You can go ahead and say never. Like,
yeah.
This is the team with the lead. They had the control. There's multiple recalls shown while they have zero vision of Baron, and it immediately gets started up. That being said, there was this possibility of a steal. Maybe you go in for it. It's almost a suicide mission though, and they're able to get out with that Baron, and that is what kind of started out the game and gave you those worries for Phoenix1. But then, as we said, on the bottom side, then they started to regain momentum.
And against better teams, this has been the same P1 that we've seen throughout the season. Better teams have been able to punish them. Unfortunately, Goldcoin United was not able to do that in this one. We have another replay here. A 4-for-0 that P1 was able to wait out the Baron and find the fight that they wanted.
Yeah, this is where you started to get a little more hopeful for Phoenix1, but a lot of it was due to some over-aggression from Goldcoin United. Rikara rocket jumping forward as the Shen comes in, invalidates the help of that Shen shield, and takes her AD carry out of the fight.
I mean, Rikara looked so good early in the game, right? He was getting all these aggressive kills with Tristana, and even flashing forward and getting some of them. But in the late game like this, overextending, it's huge punishment here. Even though they have him on the chase, MikeYeung comes around the backside, doesn't even hit the cocoon, but the huge turn here from Phoenix1, and they get a big chase down.
Yeah, everyone's grouped up. Ryu did a bunch of damage in this fight, and the flaws of Goldcoin United we talk about, where they set up plays very slowly, this is why they end up setting up plays slowly, because when they try and rush it, they can get themselves into really big trouble, and that's what happened here, is they just kind of piled in one after another with small mistakes, which ended in a 4-for-0.
Arrow and Ryu, huge DPS in this fight. Those two carries kind of trading perimeters and allowing the other one to get off auto attacks while one was dodging or using the cleanse. It was pretty good trading of aggro, basically, there, if you consider them AI.
Yeah.
And definitely the last aggro play that we had here, the pentakill coming out of Ryu, just popping off on the Corki and got one after another.
Yeah, seeing a little bit of action around the Baron pit right here, and Gold Coin United wanted to try and sneak one away because they had actually killed MikeYeung in the fight prior, but they're pretty low. They don't have all of the spells they would want for this ultimate, and even though they get the Baron, they're trapped in the pit against a Corki with an Ardent Sensor who they haven't been able to take down.
Taking so much damage, not only from Phoenix1, from Baron as well. Going in here, and the dive is actually very close. Pretty big Locket Shield comes up there. Keeps Arrow up long enough that they're able to kill off Tristana in the trade, even though Arrow does end up going down. And that means they still have another carry left. Ryu, as you know, able to chase down his pentakill.
And Ori against double AD carries is very critical that you're good with your Shockwave. Fly whiffed the Shockwave in this fight, and that really allowed Ryu and Arrow to go full aggression. Almost some amazing dodging there in that brush to get the recall off, but Ryu waited for his shields, moved in, got the penna.
Yeah, and he did a great thing there. There was 3 Winter's Bite stacks on him. He had great spacing in that Baron fight and was not stunned, was able to go ahead and pop off there. And one of the things I want to highlight are the carries doing better on the LCS teams than the Challenger teams, and we saw it on the other stream as well. In this one, Ryu popping off much larger than what we've seen Fly do in the Challenger series.
Yeah, the carries are performing right now. Ryu and Arrow were not performing very well during the regular season. A lot of it, I think, is coming down to they're performing the way they do, but these Challenger teams haven't had the macro play to close out the way the LCS teams are, because Phoenix1 and Team Liquid were both capable of generating leads in the LCS. They just weren't capable of ending the game.
Yeah, that being said, Arrow frontlining during that one Baron was, one of the big throwbacks that they had. But let's see what happens in Game 3.
Yeah. Meet us back here for Game 3 to see if Phoenix1 can close out the series versus Gold Coin United. You're watching the final promotional tournament.